anybody really thinks. They don't care about reason. They don't care about intellect. All they care about is bludgeoning their political opponents on the head. And the word fascism is a good tool for that. George Orwell wrote about this. He said, fascism at this point basically just means something I don't like, something I don't agree with. So they'll club us on the head, and they will demonstrate their own ignorance. Now, speaking of political violence, there's a pro-life display at University of Arizona. Pro-life display with pictures of what abortion looks like. It wasn't particularly provocative, other than it showed the reality of abortion. But it didn't say, here's what we should do with abortionists. It didn't say, we need to pass this law to jail the abortionists or anything like that. It just said, this is what abortion is. And the pro-abortion activists started throwing eggs at the display. They started getting violent at the display, started mouthing off, obviously, at the pro-lifers. This video is provided by the Center for Bioethical Reform.
Wow.
Putting aside for a second, even the issue of abortion,
I'll be right back.
if your first reaction to something in politics is to let your emotions run away and to become violent, that's a good sign that you are on the wrong side. The debate that we are having right now at the highest level in politics is about human nature. Human nature is defined by two things: the fact that we have will and the fact that we have intellect. That's what separates us from the animals and the plants and the rocks. We have intellect, we have a rational soul. We can know things abstractly. A pig can know something about where to find food, but a pig doesn't think about justice in the abstract. Human beings, uniquely among the terrestrial created beings, can do that. So we have intellect and we have will. We can actually will to do something, even if it's contrary to our basest appetites. So we've got will and intellect. And the purpose of education is to cultivate your will such that it is in accord with your intellect and in accord with right reason and in accord with reality. So on the one side of the debate, you've got will and intellect working together, which is what serious philosophers and statesmen for all of history have wanted. Then on the left side of the debate, you've got a vision of will and intellect being opposed to one another. You see this very clearly with transgenderism. The intellect knows that boys and girls are different. The intellect knows that if you're a man, you've got the body of a man, that you're not really a woman. But the will, you might have some disordered desire to be a woman. You might have some disordered desire to overcome the constraints of reality. And so in the left view, when there is some conflict between the will and the intellect, the will has to overtake the intellect. The disordered desire has to reign supreme over what you know to be true logically. You see this with abortion. With abortion, the intellect knows that the baby is a baby. It's very difficult to deny that the baby is a baby. But the will wants the license to murder the baby if the baby's inconvenient. And so in the logic of abortion, the will has to reign supreme and dominate what we know with our intellect to be true. This is why Naomi Wolf in the 90s, the feminist, said, look, we can all admit that the baby's a baby, but for women to have equal rights, the mother needs to be able to kill the baby in all of his humanity. This is why the libs, when they're being honest about abortion, they'll make jokes about babies. They'll say, yeah, I'm going to kill those babies. You bet I'm going to kill that baby. This is why the libs sometimes try to make arguments that the baby isn't really a baby, but they can never make a logical argument for it. They just have to invent new euphemisms. Say, well, that's just a clump of cells. Well, you're a clump of cells too. What's the meaning of the clump of cells? No, it's just a zygote. Well, that's just a word you've made up to refer to a little tiny human being. Well, it's just a fetus. A fetus is just a Latin word for offspring. Well, that's just I don't know. What do we run it? Can we make up a new word? Can we make up a new word that sounds like a Pokemon so that I can ignore the fact that it's a baby? That's what they do, but they don't make an argument for it. Because it has nothing to do with an argument. It's purely about will. And there are plenty of societies in history that have suppressed the intellect, suppressed reason, and governed not according to law, civil law, and the reflection in the civil law of the eternal laws of justice, of the natural law. There are societies that just are ruled by people clubbing their opponents on the head. That's the society we're moving toward as the libs gain power. Now, speaking